We're live. How you guys like this dope-ass theme music? If I can say that. Here it comes. Welcome to Night Shift Live. How's everybody doing? Got a little bit of a late start. Sorry about that. I don't know what it is. I always have some kind of weird hiccup with YouTube at the last minute. Throws me off. You know why? I think I know what it is. I reboot my machine. I do a clean boot. I'm old school. Turn it off, turn it back on again before you go live. I learned that the hard way. And I feel like every time I reboot my machine, everything gets reloaded. So this stream that I scheduled that morning, for some reason, the window closes, everything gets rebooted, and then I have a hard time reconnecting to the same thing. So I'm back. It's all good. We fixed it. Check out that new theme music. Guys, what do you think? You know who put that together? Xander Jones, friend of the show. Xander Jones reached out to me, and we started kind of chit-chatting back and forth, and he just is a fan of the show and wanted to contribute in some way. And I was like, look, I'm just like, what I'm trying to do is create something that's really got just a cool sound to it, and I don't know how to do that. I don't have that skill set at all. Can you help me, please? And he said, hold my beer. And then he went away for like a few hours. It felt like no time at all, and came back and was like, I wrote you all this music. This is what I've got. And he's set up this amazing folder, and we've got this dialogue going back and forth to try and get some collaboration going between another artist and what we're doing over here. And Xander, thank you so much for that track. I got your email. You've emailed me like 3 times. I owe you a response. We're going to do a call, but you've just been loading me up with amazing stuff, and I've been listening to it on repeat. So great track. I really love it. I love that sound, and yeah, it's just awesome. So I can't wait to see what else we can do. Welcome, everybody. Let's check the chat. Who's here? Harris Diamonds. Terrence Willis is in the house. Clay Weber. Chris Dale. Sage Sleuth. Hey, Sage Sleuth. Bungle. Terrence. I just saw you, Terrence. Haley. Johnny J. John J. Rambo. Brookers. Mallory. Sage Wildheart. Peppy. Srawat. What's up? The Dan Burrish intro background music with the monologue was nutty. Instantly hooked me. I'm glad. I'm so glad. Let's see here. Okay. We're going to talk about the book. We're going to get into the book. Hang on. I'm just catching up with the chat. Classy guy, classy music. I really enjoy collaborating with other artists. I have my skill set, and I feel pretty comfortable in my wheelhouse, but I'm I'm comfortable admitting there's a lot that I don't know, and I often like to reach out to other people who have talents in areas that are just foreign to me, and see what we can do. And so it's always really gratifying when an artist reaches out and says, hey, I saw that thing you're doing on YouTube. Is there anything I can do to help, or how can I be a part of what you're doing? So I'm looking forward to having more musical choice going forward. I've been licensing stuff from YouTube and trying to use Adobe stock. And it's just nice to have somebody who can actually write some original music. It's amazing, really. So as some of you know, and as some of you I've mentioned on the channel, I'm a father, I'm a parent, I have another job, another career, I have other things going on. So my time, especially lately, has been broken up into, I get like little chunks. I get like an hour here, I get like 30 minutes when I walk the dog, I get, little bits and pieces. So some of you have already powered through Lou's book and you've already got all the way to the end and you know everything there is to know about it. I have not. I'm getting through like the first third of it right about now. In fact, I'm up to the point where I'm up to Project Stargate. And so that's what I was able to get in between starting the audiobook yesterday and today's show. So I thought we would talk a little bit about that first chunk and digest some of that. And I have some interesting connections that I've drawn from what I saw that I think you'll find interesting too. And I don't know if Brett's here. Brett, are you here? Brett and I were just talking about this offline a little while ago. He spotted some interesting similarities too. We're going to talk about the book. We're going to talk about some remote viewing stuff, Project Stargate, and we're going to talk about the UAP trap that Lou just put out a clip, and he was talking about. They have a trap. They have a system set up to trap UAPs. They figured this out. I haven't seen the full clip, so I don't know the complete context, but I've got the short clip here pulled up. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. Let's see here. Hang on, gang, while I get set up here. All right, I'm gonna try to make this work, and hopefully it doesn't screw me up. Hold on. Listen to this elevator music while I figure this out. There we go. Hey, all right. So if you're not familiar, this is our website, teamnightshift.com. How do you become a member of Team Night Shift? What is Team Night Shift? Why should you become a member? What is it? Don't worry, it doesn't cost anything, and it's actually kind of fun, right? You get to be a part of a really cool group of people who like UFOs as much as you do. I started this whole channel because people were sick and tired of hearing me talk about UFOs, particularly my wife, who was just over it. I think after a while, I could just see the 1,000-yard stare on her face, and she would kind of zone out. And I realized I had to reach out to some other people. So I created the Night Shift YouTube channel, which at first wasn't even a really serious venture. It was just venting into a camera. But as it took off and started to pick up steam and the wheels left the runway, as it were, I realized that I'd created a monster and I needed to give it a home. So we created teamnightshift.com, which is the website that is the central hub for kind of the show and everything we're doing. I made a conscious decision years ago to stay away from social media and as much as possible. This is pretty toxic and nasty. And I guess I just thought an old school website made more sense. So here, let's kill this elevator music. It is catchy though. So, if you're interested in what we're doing, you can go to teamnightshift.com and you'll see some really fabulous quotes and reviews from people like yourself who've watched the show and had very nice things to say about it. So I put those right up front. So when I reach out to guests, this is what they see, and they see the cool community that we've built over here. And here, let me rearrange my window. Where'd it go? There we are. And this is getting updated. There's going to be, this is sort of our UAP timeline from 2017 up to present day, and just a collection of clips for people who don't necessarily know what they believe yet, and they need a little convincing, a little push over the edge. You can go here and point them to this stuff, see all the cool interviews. And if you want to support the show and you want to be super awesome, you can pick up a shirt. We've got some awesome merch. The Racerback tanks, the women's tanks are really great. This is my workout shirt I use at the gym at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week if I'm really good. So if you want to go sleeveless, I'm going to shoot down a UAP. You're going to need some big guns. So you got to get into the gym, pump some iron, get your pump on, and go sleeveless. Show everybody there that you're a member of Team Night Shift, which is really just a group of sort of wayward loners that sits around and watches YouTube and talks about UFOs. But we're trying to brand it a little better than that. Of course, it's got the regular tee. This is a side seamed super soft tee. Thank you to everyone who's picked one up. We had a lot of people buy t-shirts in the last couple of weeks. It's been kind of amazing. I'm really grateful to everyone who's picked one up. We've got them in heather gray, navy blue, we've got them in black. And of course, the most important item that you can pick up is the Night Shift mug, because you're going to load it up with your caffeinated beverage of choice and fall down the YouTube hole. So visit our website, click on the merch page. Free shipping on all shirts, at least as far as I know. If you hit a shirt order and there's a shipping charge, let me know and I'll fix it for you. But there should be free shipping on all the shirts right now. And we're going to do some other stuff. I've got some new merch coming. Let me just bounce out of here. We're testing some stuff. Check this out. Main view. That's what I want. We're testing some stuff. This is a beta of the new insulated travel tumbler. There you go. Insulated travel tumbler. We're working on that with a stainless steel straw so you can save the planet while you insulate your beverage and ride in style. Couple little kinks to work out with this and the logo placement, but just so you know, these are in the works. And I've got some other top secret merch that's on the way. I'm just waiting for my test items to arrive. I have to get some tests in the mail, and then once I check them out and make sure everything is tip top, we'll put them up on the website. You guys can see that. And if you are interested in the cool logo design that we have, and you want to get a cool logo for yourself, where you need a graphic designer who knows their shit inside and out, scroll down here at the bottom of the merch page. Special thanks, special shout out to Cole Watkins, our graphic designer, who has done all the logo work for the Night Shift. He helped me revamp the whole look. And I owe Cole a follow-up phone call. Cole, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. It's just been it's been a bad week for me, and I have dropped the ball on that phone call like 4 times. So I owe you an apology. We're gonna get in touch and work on some new stuff. But you can check out his portfolio here, and you can click on contact if you need a cool graphic designer who really gets it. Hit him up. Talk to Cole. He's your guy. All right. Let's see what else. Some channel updates. We've done amazing. This channel has been growing like gangbusters the last few weeks, and we added like 6,000 new subscribers. It's insane. Let me see if I can get my data up here, my analytics. I'll give you a quick update. 5,000 subs in the last 28 days. That's amazing. Thank you, everyone who came on board in the last month. If you've just joined us, just by subscribing, you're a member of Team Night Shift, by just hanging out with us. That's all you got to do. You really don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend money. You don't have to buy a shirt. I'm excited when people do. That's awesome. But just come hang out with us. That's enough. And if you really want to support the channel, you can become a member. There's a little button that says join, and you can click that and support the work that we're doing here, so that I can justify the time it takes to come into this office every other day and do these live streams. By the way, the rest of the time when I'm not doing these, that was my Magnum PI ringtone. Did you hear that? My ringtone is the Magnum PI theme. Okay. So if that didn't come through, now you know. If you're standing in a store and you hear the Magnum PI theme, just go off and like look around in the line behind you. It's probably me standing back there. Oh, I just totally lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? We talked about membership. We talked about subscribers. We talked about the channel blowing up. Did a really fun collab with Patrick and Pavel yesterday over at Vetted. I'm sure some of you saw that. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool to hang out with those guys. We talked about Imminent. We talked about some stuff that was news to me, that was really fascinating. And we're working on some new collabs. So that's coming up soon. And what else? What do I have here? Had some great interviews coming up I've been working on. Oh, that's what I was trying to tell you. When I'm not doing these videos, I'm doing all of the other prep work for this entire channel by myself, pretty much. I'm doing all the emails. I'm checking all the comments. I'm responding to people. I'm calling out and doing outreach for guests. I'm pre-interviewing guests. If I sit down and do a 2-hour interview with somebody, before I do that 2-hour interview, I've done 4 hours of phone calls and emails with that person already. Every interview you see takes me about 16 hours to really put together. I've got to set it up, talk to the person, figure out what we can do, what that conversation is going to look like, how that's going to flow, build out the conversation, research the guest, organize the time, set up the call, make the call. And then as soon as I do the recording, we go back, I edit everything. I have to watch it through a whole second time and then sometimes a third time. So by the time you see it, it's it's been a huge time suck. So I'm doing a lot of those. I've got an interview with an underwater explorer that I'm working on. This guy is phenomenal. He was, I don't even know if I can say this yet. I want to confirm with him before I get into the details, but this person got footage, which I understand still exists and he still has, of a USO. He was doing a deep dive, and I'm trying to get him on the show to tell the story. He's done some other podcasts, but we haven't confirmed anything yet. He has his own submarine. I just met with him the other day. I went out and took my son. We saw the submarine. It's phenomenal. It's so cool. And anyway, he saw a USO when he was underwater doing this dive, and he had his camera with him, and he was able to swing it around and get some footage of it. And the story is just out of this world. So, hoping to lock that down. I had another really fascinating call with a gentleman who I'm going to probably be talking to. I think we've scheduled that for next week. So I hope to have this interview up next week. But he specializes in, how do I say this? Weird exotic technology that turns up in places where it shouldn't be. And that's a really weird one. It's going to be a really, really interesting interview. We just went through for an hour and a half. We just talked about all kinds of stuff. And he gave me this whole presentation. And it's super dark. It's super dark. In fact, I even felt weird. I felt weird just having the conversation. And by the time it was over, by the time you guys are done watching whatever this episode turns out to be, all of us are going to be on a list. I'm pretty sure. So I'll just let you know that ahead of time. So we've got a few more people we're working on. Hope to get those locked down soon and then get those recorded, edited, put up on the channel. And you know how it goes. So if it seems like the volume of content coming out of the channel has dropped down a little bit, that's because the volume of prep work for stuff that's coming down the line is going up. So I have to front load my time a little bit more with prep for the stuff that you're going to see in the next 2-3 months. We're also trying to expand some things we're doing with the channel that I can't talk about yet. So that's what's going on. Let's check the chat. Where is everybody? Sage Sleuth, your first milestone. Congratulations. You've been a member for 1 month. That's awesome. Shout out to Sage Sleuth, everybody. Round of applause. We, the UFO people. I'm scanning the chat here when I zone out, I go like this. That's just me scanning the chat. Mustache trimmer. Who's asking about a mustache trimmer? Chameleon UK mustache trimmer. What mustache trimmer do I use? It's a combination. I use a what is it called? It's called the Peanut. It's a little wall, WAHL wall peanut trimmer. It's a little small trimmer, plugs in the wall. That's for the first pass, and then I hit it again with some tiny scissors and a little comb. I actually have a teeny tiny comb, not in my pocket. And then Pro Rosso mustache wax. It doesn't always look like it. Sometimes I don't touch it up before I go on, and it looks a little rough. I'm trying to figure out exactly like what the sweet spot is with the mustache, if it should be bigger or smaller. It's a bold choice. It's a whole lifestyle. So I need a mustache sponsor for the show. So if anybody works for a company that makes mustache products or wax or tiny scissors or little combs, let me know. Reach out. We need some night shift They Live sunglasses. That's a great idea, Terrence. Let's see. Sage Sleuth. I still can't find the button to gift memberships on my iPhone. It's not where the super chats and stickers are at. Oh man. I feel like every day I get confused by some new aspect of YouTube that I didn't even know existed. Special shout out to Chris Hovord, who has gifted like 650,000 memberships in the last 30 days. Chris, you're a hero, and if you're watching this, thank you again. I've got your order. I've got you squared away. It's just going to take a little longer because of the international thing, but we're going to get you squared away. Just sit tight. I'm going to hook you up. Hang in there. Sage Sleuth, I need to get my laptop out. I can't lift it yet, but soon hope to be able to figure out what's preventing me. Just for Men would be a great sponsor. Just for Men would be a great sponsor. That's great. Um, Speaking of movies, They Live is one of my favorites. It's awesome. But on that note, it just got me thinking. I just watched. This is what it's like being a parent, right? Like all you parents are going to understand. You, especially if a toddler, because you go to bed. Our kid, he wants to go to sleep. He wants everyone to go to sleep at the same time. So we all have to fake it like we're all going to sleep until he falls asleep, and then we can get up and start the second half of the day, which is like, doing dishes and cleaning up and whatever. And then if at the end of that, if you have any time left over, there's like 30 minutes at like between 10 o'clock and 10:30 where your brain has just enough synapses left to sit down and maybe like go through like 30 minutes of Netflix. And my wife and I yesterday just watched the the new Beverly Hills Cop movie. Has anybody seen this? It's actually really good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it turned out to be. Uh, I'm still only halfway through it, but I hope to finish it tonight. Um, all right. So let's talk about Imminent. I have the audiobook. I got it as soon as it came out. I started listening to it, and when I was like walking the dog or going to the gym or driving a car, whatever I was doing, and I don't have a like formal like point by point list of breakdown of the entire book. I'm not going to do that yet because I'm not through it. But just at first blush, some thoughts, and I'm curious without no spoilers, right? Without spoiling this, I might make some projections based on what I've read so far that turn out not to be like realistic by the time I get to the end. I'm fully aware of that. So if I say something and I'm gonna like find out later that that's not the case when I get to the second half of the book, you can just let me know. But the first thing that jumped out at me was how relatable and how nice it is to hear Lou read the book just in his own voice. Uh, I was surprised by that. I had some weird reservations about Lou in the beginning. I love how we're all on a first name basis with Lou. But when the story first kind of dropped and Lou showed up on the scene, I I was hesitant um, to buy what he was selling just because I have sort of an innate distrust of like intelligence type people who come out of like weird military backgrounds. I feel like that's a healthy reflex to have. We should all kind of take a second. So I didn't know what to think. I was like just taking it in, and what I noticed about Lou from the beginning was he was very clear about when he would make an appearance wherever he would appear. Like he appeared on Fox News a lot, and every time he was on Fox News, he was in front of his like, he's in his army guy office. He's got all his shit there. He's got like the 511 cap on. He's got the flag in the background. He's got all of his stuff and his military accolades kind of hanging on the wall. And so for a Fox News audience, if when you're messaging and you're trying to think about like I need to reach this demographic, you look at your demographic and you figure out who are these people, what's their age group, what's their mindset, what are their media consumption habits, like you try to figure out who you're talking to. And then you build a message that reaches them in the most effective way. And the way that you talk to group A is not going to be the way that you talk to group B. You might have the same core information that you're trying to get across, and the message might be the same, but the delivery is going to be different depending on who you're talking to. And it seemed to me from the very beginning that Lou was very not only aware of this, which makes sense for his background and his training and what he does, but he's very good at it. He's really good at it. And I noticed that kind of right away. And it seemed to me like the whole thing was being carefully coordinated. Like the way that Lou would appear on podcasts and start talking about stuff. When Chris Mellon would show up, he would be talking about national security, speaking within his wheelhouse, but always framing things in sort of a national security way. And it almost felt like each person had a role to play and it was being coordinated from somewhere else. I don't know if that's the case, but that's the sense that I'm getting. And I get that sense more and more as this unfolds and we start to see other people come forward, David Grush, Carl Nell, um, uh, Malgrim, the tweets that Malgrim put out. So that's interesting. Um, Listening to him read the book in his own voice, he's very relatable. He's very, it's very calming. He's got a great voice. He just sort of puts you at ease, and he just fucking rocks your world with this the stuff that he's saying. It just rocks your world. Um, so that at first blush, just listening to him read it is an enjoyable experience. So if you have the physical book and you're like you think you might listen to the audiobook, try it. I usually am not an audiobook guy. I like to read the book. I like to sit down and actually go through the process of like reading it, holding the book in my hands. I like to sit by a window, read my book. So it's nice to have the audiobook and just to check it out that way. The foreword by Chris Mellon was very interesting. Well, let me back up. The title. So the very first thing that Lou does is come on and he explains the title. And he's like, why did I call it Imminent? And then he this is Lou's Clues in action. This is a perfect example of Lou's Clues. Listening to Lou Elizondo talk at times can feel like you're trying to talk to an oracle that only answers in riddles, right? Like you could ask someone to ask Lou a direct question. He'll answer in a question that leads you on a path of personal discovery and self-empowerment. And somehow like, then you go on walkabout for 7 years and you come back and you're like, what happened? I just asked a question. So he sets up the title of the book and he goes, well, why did I call it Imminent? That's for you, the reader, to decide. And imminent means, you know, something very specific, right? Like we know what imminent means. So what the fuck, man? Like, what are you doing with this word game? We go from that explanation to Chris Mellon in the forward setting up the national security implications and the global security implications of a world in which human beings are not the top player. He basically paints a picture of whatever the game is that we're all playing right now on this planet, right? Of superpowers and nuclear brinksmanship and all of the diplomacy and all of the different things that are machinations that are happening behind the scenes to make this big giant system of ours work. What happens when something new enters the game that is vastly superior to everybody else in the game? Like when a new player shows up, how does that affect the game? How does that affect everybody else? How does that affect the outcome possibilities? How does that affect your decision tree as leadership? How do military people react? How does society assimilate that information? And he focuses really specifically on the national security setup for this. The first part of it, he spends explaining how he's baffled why like no one in government understands that this is a thing. But then the rest of the book goes on to basically show us exactly how much the government knows, and it's a lot. So that was really interesting. But I thought it was particularly key that he zeroed in on 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. And he talks about these incursions are happening into our airspace and around our nuclear facilities and our nuclear assets, technology that is beyond next generation, out of this world. That's such a lame thing, but it works. Out of this world technology that shouldn't exist, and these things are operating with impunity in our most secure areas all over the world every day. Not only that, but the types of craft that have been described range in size from a softball size orb to something hundreds of feet long that could be as even ones that are big enough to carry the population of an entire city, is something that Lou said later. I would just like to take this opportunity to point out, just for all of us that are sitting here watching YouTube and hanging out together, you realize what that means, right? It means we're surrounded. Like, whatever, that's the thing they probably don't want you to think about. We're surrounded all the time by these gigantic fucking ships, huge ones, size of cities, enormous. And we're going to get to some even weirder stuff later. All different sizes, but lots of them every single day. Ryan Graves, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, we saw them every day, year after year, in our training grounds where we would do our training exercises. These things were everywhere. Tim Gallaudet, U.S. Navy, NOAA. We see these things underwater all the time. Underwater all the time. The size of gigantic ships underwater, moving 1,000 miles an hour all the time. That's the thing. Like, it's weird how few people clue into that. Like, all the time, every day, week after week, day after day, year after year, for how many years? 50, 60, 75 years that we know of, at least. So is this thing already over? That's my question to you. Is it over? Like, if they're here, if they're coming here from elsewhere, or even if they're originating here from like some progenitor civilization and they're located deep beneath the earth's crust in some subterranean, I don't know, world. If we're that surrounded that often, then who's really in charge? And if we have no countermeasures and we have no way to really like deal with these things on their level, uh, that sounds to me like it's already over. Whatever it is, it's over, and we're not in charge. I don't know. That's just spitballing. Yeah, the bubble around the craft. He talks about Chris Mellon talks about the security failures, but before Pearl Harbor and 9/11, and how appendages of our national security apparatus were aware that there was a threat in both cases, but because that information wasn't communicated properly through whatever channels it needed to go to, and the decisions that needed to be made weren't made, um, that led to huge security failures and a great loss of life. And I think it's really interesting that he chose those two cases to highlight, because it suggests to me, like, if you add that together with the title of the book, right? Imminent. Now I'm going to talk about Pearl Harbor. Now I'm going to talk about 9/11. Well, what else is imminent? What are you teeing up with that conversation? That puts my mind spinning about all kinds of possibilities. Lou, in other interviews that he's done, particularly in Kurt Jamungel's Theories of Everything podcast, I don't have the clips to pull, but I've shown them here before. He goes to great pains to describe the threat potential of an adversary with technology like that. And he said one thing in particular that always stuck with me. He was like, what if these things are on their way and they're going to be here and we have a limited amount of time to prepare? And if we don't, if it becomes public knowledge too soon, then they know that we know, and that changes the whole game. So it might make it all of our preparations worthless. And he kind of gamed out this scenario. If anybody knows what episode this was of the Theories of Everything podcast, please link to it in the chat. But I know some of you, many of you have seen it. So what I'm picking up here, or what I'm getting at, is that like every time Lou talks about this, he's saying it without saying it. He's like, there's like a huge threat here. He talks in the book about there's one scene in particular in 2003 in Iraq, two Abrams tanks that he goes out and he's called out to this forward staging area. I think he said it was Camp New York. I don't know if that's the actual one or if that's just an example, but he the MP walks him out to these two tanks. There's all these guys guarding these tanks, and they've got a hole like a laser beam straight through the side armor of the tank out the other side, and then the tank next to it straight through that tank and out the other side. So we know they're really interested in our nuclear weapons. We know that they can turn off our naval ships. That's been reported. We know that they can shut off all our countermeasures. They can evade all of our military technology. They can show up at any nuclear site at any time. They can penetrate the armor of our best tanks with seemingly with ease. I'd be interested to know what the angle of that beam was. Was that like hip level straight across, or was it from an up angle shooting down? Um, you know what I mean? Like, was that like a handheld device, or is that like an orb that shoots out a beam? Like, what produces a beam that can penetrate a tank and then go out the other side and then go through another tank and out the other side? Um, and why do that? So, I, at least for my part, I know that the reflex in general in ufology is to assume that they're non-threatening, because if they wanted to do anything to harm us, they would have done it by now. But I got to be honest with you, like so far, a third of the way through this book, that's not the vibe I'm getting. And I don't want to be like a doom and gloomer when it comes to the UAP topic, but um, I think people should be talking about it more. I think we should take the threat narrative a little more seriously. I'm not saying we have to get hysterical about it and panic about it, but he's talking about another case in Brazil. These villages, these super remote villages, way out in the middle of nowhere, away from city lights, away from all of this stuff, and how these people in these rural communities are terrorized by these craft that would appear. Gigantic craft the size of football fields. They would penetrate their houses with laser beams and zap them, and they would get hit with these lasers and get radiation burns. Their hemoglobin levels would change. They would black out. Some of them died. Some of them had permanent injuries. That's some weird shit, right? Like that doesn't sound like the activity of a peaceful, friendly, like that's not Alf, right? That's not ET. That's something else. Um, he talks about psychotronic weapons. That's coming up on Night Shift in another week or two. We're going to have a conversation about psychotronic weapons. There's been some conversations on in DC about that. There's some interesting clips I'm going to pull from some guys who were testifying before Congress about this in a hearing. Um, the Soviets were working on psychotronic weapons back in the 70s and 80s, as far as I understand, and that's what got us working on it. They thought we were working on them. We thought they were working on them. So we're both designing these weapons independently of one another. And what the signs of some of this weaponry, the symptoms of being hit with it. This is stuff where they basically can imagine parking a van across the street from your house. And inside that van, there's a little gadget, gizmo. They point it at your house and they start zapping you with these high frequency EM waves. And there are measurable effects that can manifest in the human body. You can hear voices. You can think you're going crazy. You can lose sleep. You can lose the ability to go to sleep. You can be put to sleep for hours, weeks, or months sometimes. You can be get radiation burns. It's Havana syndrome. If you look up Havana syndrome, I think we're talking about the same thing here. But in the Capitol Hill hearing that I'm referring to here, it was these security guys who were talking about U.S. Service members and diplomats that were getting hit with these weapons. This was the hypothesis they were working with. And they were saying how they're designed to make you go crazy slowly. Like you feel like you're losing your mind because you'll hear people. They can actually project a voice into your head from a distance with a beam. And that's the key thing. So they can repeat messages and make people think they're losing their mind. So it sounded like what he was talking about in Brazil. It was like that there's a chance that could be something like that, but it sounds a lot more non-human to me. I just thought that he made that connection with psychotronic weapons in the book was interesting because that's something that we've been hearing about recently more. Oh, someone's got the link. Shardul, you got the link. The Brazil thing gets even weirder because in the meeting that he goes to in the book where he's talking about the Brazilian general that was in charge of this investigation. This is a meeting with Bigelow, Hal Puthoff, some other guys that are in the program with him, and this Brazilian general and his daughter. And this was the other weird thing that kind of jumps out. He says the data they collected on what the people claim they saw broke down into, they saw two categories of non-humans, or two categories of, I don't even know what you call this, ETs, extraterrestrials, aliens, whatever you want to call them. One of them they described as more or less human, Nordics, and the other one, Greys, Nordics and Greys, which is really weird because that sounds like something out of some Buck Rogers movie. That sounds silly. I've always thought the whole Nordic thing was a little weird for me. It was always just felt a little strange. Like Nordics, like really? Like they're all 6'6". They're all like beautiful Olympic athlete people. They all have like flowing, long, blonde hair. Like, what is this? It's such a weird description of these aliens. But story after story after story for decades has talked about Nordics, and Greys have been like the staple of this community forever. Like we've been hearing about Greys since the very beginning. So what I'm getting at here is when you listen to Lou read it and you listen to he builds this case. He basically is making an appeal to people who are like outside of this community who don't really have all of the benefit of years of falling down the YouTube rabbit hole that we have. He's making the case like this is a very credible case, and some of the incredible things in it, like there are two groups of beings. One of them looks like us, one of them doesn't. Was it Robert Dean? Was he the guy who said he worked at for NATO in the 60s, and his group, he read a classified briefing, and he said and then he went on to talk about this for years afterward until he died. And he said the biggest thing they were concerned about, that they knew about the alien situation, the extraterrestrial situation, and in the highest levels of the chain of command, the thing they were most concerned about were the ones that looked like us. The ones that looked like us, because they could sit next to you in a movie theater, that you could go to a restaurant, you could eat at a table next to one and you wouldn't know. Now, why am I talking about that? In the book, he talks about Hal Puthoff. And when he's describing the players in the OSAP ATIP program, and he's talking about all these people, and he talks about Hal Puthoff, you realize how much of a heavy hitter Hal Puthoff is, and how much of a heavy hitter Bob Bigelow is. And you start to picture this room, and you're like, Hal Puthoff, by himself, for 50 years, has been at the dead center of this whole, whatever this is, that entire time. He has worked on these projects in one form or another all the way back as far as you want to go. And at Stanford Research Institute, he worked on Project Stargate. And Project Stargate, that's as far as I got in the book, is Lou talking about Project Stargate. And when he talks about Project Stargate, this was the program that the United States put into motion to try and tap psychics and remote viewers as intelligence assets and get them. Basically, the idea, if you're not familiar with remote viewing or RV, is that you can go into a sort of a trance state. I mean, I guess every remote viewer is a little different in how they do it. Daz Smith seems like he's wide awake and very lucid when he does it. Other people need different, means and methods that they use. But you get yourself into the zone, and you can basically take your consciousness and send it places and retrieve data and bring it back. And that data comes in the form of feelings, impressions, a sense of like material, touch, details, little like bits and pieces. And some remote viewers who are really good, if they're really badass, they draw out very detailed pictures of what it is they're perceiving in their session. And the way remote viewing is done is it's done double blind, so that the remote viewer and the person who's assigning the task, neither of them actually know what the target is. Usually the target's in an envelope sealed in a file cabinet in a different room. Sometimes the remote viewer won't get anything other than some coordinates, or they'll get something really basic, like almost no information to go from. And from that, this program was one of the most successful intelligence gathering programs that we ever deployed. And they can take that data that these RVers get and they put it together with satellite data, human intelligence, signals intelligence stuff that they get. I mean, they put it as part of a tableau of all different intelligence sources. And they basically use that to get a higher resolution picture of what it is they're looking for. And they use remote viewers to find stuff like a Soviet jet that went down in a super remote area. They were able to locate this thing and recover it. So if they can locate a jet, they can locate a UFO, they can locate a base. And there are remote viewers who claim that there are bases all over this planet, which is another weird thing. Pat Price is one of them. So he builds out this story about Stanford Research Institute, Hal Puthoff, and his resume. And I don't know about you guys, but I walked away from that thinking, that's some real shit. And if that's real, which I'm like, okay, I'm buying it, Lou. Like, you're convincing me. It's just like all of this stuff. Whenever I tend to get enthusiastic about it and excited because it is so much like science fiction to me. It's like I'm finding out that the real world is actually a whole lot more magical and mysterious and weird than we're taught, right? That's a weird one to take on board. And I take it on board in bite-sized pieces, but I always try to reel myself back in a little bit and then say, is it though? Like, is this for real? And every time I do that, it's like one more thing comes up and is like, oh yeah, it's for real. It's for real. Joe McMoneagle is a badass. Daz Smith is great. And of course, if you've been with me for a while, gang, you know what I'm going to talk about next. We're going to talk about Ingo Swann. Because Ingo Swann is like, is he the Obi-Wan Kenobi of remote viewing? How would you classify Ingo Swann? For people out there who know who Ingo is, what would you say Ingo Swann is on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 is like a Jedi Master remote viewer. Ingo's got to be between an 8 and a 9.5, right? Oh, out of words. I'm holding that book right now. Okay, if you're holding that book right now, you know what it talks about with these synchronicities. The synchronicities that just happen sometimes. And you're like, they'll say a book. You want to hear a synchronicity? All right, just show of hands in the chat. How many people understand what this connection is between synchronicities and the UFO phenomena, or know that there is one? Just give me like a thumbs up. I'm just curious. I'm going to do a quick like temp check with this group. A 9. Space Cow gives it a 9 out of 10. Oh, Ingo Swann is not just famous. He's one of the most successful RVers of all time. Ingo Swann is he found shit before NASA found it, and his remote viewing sessions were checked by NASA and proven correct. That he saw shit that he when I forget what the details were. Someone can throw them in the chat, but the probe that NASA had sent out, Ingo was able to remote view what the probe was going to see before it arrived at its location. And then it was weeks or months later when the probe got there and they checked the data against his predictions, and he was dead on balls accurate. It's an industry term. Okay. Synchronicities. Okay, so the synchronicity thing, it boils down into, how am I going to boil synchronicities down? It ties into the woo connection, right? There's nuts and bolts, craft, UFOs made out of metal. You walk up to them, you knock on them, you do whatever you do, and then the wall opens up. You go inside, you sit in a chair. It's very physical. It's very real, just like the table, the chair you're sitting in now. Nuts and bolts. But then there's the consciousness aspect of this whole thing, which people lovingly refer to as the woo aspect. It's sort of the magical stuff. It's the weirdness. It's the things that we don't quite understand. It's Chris Bledsoe having a UAP sighting. And in that sighting, he is shown a vision of a three-dimensional holographic woman that he calls the lady, who is like 6 feet tall, blonde, wearing a glowing robe. She's floating in the air. He has this full blast spiritual experience, and she communicates to him that some crazy stuff is going to happen in the near future, and he still hasn't revealed what that is. That's woo. That's the consciousness aspect. And it turns out that the deeper you get into the study of UFOs or UAPs or the consciousness connection between all of these things, sometimes the phenomenon finds you, and you sort of like, I guess, your consciousness switches on like a beacon, and the phenomenon can somehow locate you, and things will start to happen. Weird things, stuff that at first won't seem very like weird. It'll just seem like odd. And then it'll start to seem weird. And then it'll start to seem weird all the time. And then you can't not see it. And it's like all around you. I'll give you a for instance of, geez, there's been so many. The one that happened this afternoon. It was an hour and a half before we went live today. In Lou's book, I'm listening to him talk about his childhood. Remember that whole part? He's talking about his childhood. He grew up in Miami, went to UM. My wife also grew up in Miami, went to UM. Lou Elizondo learned to fly an airplane at the Sarasota International Airport. He was flying over Sarasota Beach. That's where I grew up. That's my hometown. My parents live in Sarasota. He owned a restaurant. His dad owned a restaurant on St. Armand's Key. That's 15 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. It's the weirdest thing. This guy has a connection to my hometown. I've been following him for years. I had no idea. And it's not just a little connection. It's a huge connection. That's weird. Little synchronicities. It doesn't, I don't know what it means, but it's just weird little things. It's like you go to a thrift store, you turn the corner, you look at a shelf, and on that shelf is the exact book someone told you about 5 days ago in idle conversation. And you were like, oh yeah, I should get that book. And then you walk over and you look and it's right there and it's 50 cents. It's like, or it's in the clearance bin, or someone drops it in the parking lot is even more synchronous and weird. And you're like, oh, you pick up the book and there it is. I don't know what the connection is. There just is one. And anybody who's experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you study this stuff long enough, it'll start to happen to you. And it's really weird. And I can't explain it. I don't know. Oh, Out of Worlds lived in Sarasota. Wow, that's awesome. At a ranch. Where'd you own your ranch? It sounds like religious talk. I know. I know it sounds like religious talk. I get it. I get it. UFO Cholo. My wife's family calls me Cholo Blanco. The whole thing is weird. Maybe we're not meant to understand it. Burn Creek Ranch is Fruitville Road. I know Fruitville Road. That's so funny. Pretty cool, small world. All right, so check this out. Ingo Swann, remote viewing, right? Lost my thread. I marked some stuff. We're going to read some of this book. Let me just read to you. If what Lou said is legit, and I have no way of verifying it, but I'm going to take him at his word because, he wrote the book. So let's take him at his word. If what he's saying is legit, then that means what Ingo Swann has to say is probably legit. And here's what Ingo Swann had to say this is page 40 in Penetration. Humanoids on the moon. Okay, listen to this. This is for real. Back at work at Stanford Research Institute, where they're doing the remote viewing experiment with Hal Puthoff. Remember, Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ are in charge of this project. This is not just like a bunch of dudes hanging around. Like, this is the best of the best of the best at one of the best research facilities in the world doing top line, top tier intelligence work. And this is what he says. Back at work, Axel gave me moon coordinates, each set representing a specific locations on the moon's surface. At some of the locations, there seemed to be nothing to see except moonscapes. But at other locations, well, there were confusions, and I perceived a lot that I could not understand at all. I made a lot of sketches, identifying them as this or that, or looking like something else. Without comments, Axelrod quickly took possession of each sketch, and I was never to see them again. This is where it gets weird. He's talking about on the moon, I found towers, machinery, lights of different colors, strange looking buildings. I found bridges whose function I couldn't figure out. One of them just arched out and never landed anywhere. There were a lot of domes of various sizes, round things, things like small saucers with windows. These were stored next to crater sides, sometimes in caves, sometimes in what looked like airfield hangars. 40 pages into this book, this is what he's dropping on us. I had problems estimating sizes, but some of the things were very large. I found long tube-like things, machinery tractor-like things going up and down hills, straight roads extending some miles, obelisks which had no apparent function. There were large platforms on domes, large cross-like structures, holes being dug into crater walls, and floors obviously having to do with some kind of mining or earth-moving operations. There were nets over craters, houses in which someone obviously lived, except that I couldn't see who, save in one case. In that case, I saw some kind of people busy at work on something I could not figure out. The place was dark, the air was filled with a fine dust, and there was some kind of illumination like a dark lime green fog or mist. The thing about them, stick with me. The thing about them was that they were either, the thing about them was that they either were human or looked exactly like us, but they were all males, as I could see since they were all, this is a quote from the book, butt ass naked. I had absolutely no idea why. They seemed to be digging into a hillside or a cliff. He goes, okay, being there in my psychic state as I felt I was, some of those guys started talking excitedly and gesticulating. Two of them pointed in my direction. So this is Ingo Swann in a room at Stanford Research Institute, sitting in a chair, sending his consciousness to coordinates on the moon where he sees people working and they see him. Now check this shit out. Immediately I felt like running away and hiding, which I guess I psychically did since I lost sight of this particular imaging. I think they have spotted me, Axel. They were pointing at me, I think. How could they do that unless they have some kind of high psychic perceptions too? Axel, short for Axelrod, the guy overseeing this particular run that they're doing, said in a calm, low voice, so low I hardly heard it at first, please quickly come away from that place. My eyes were wide as understanding drained in. You already know they are psychic, don't you? Axel raised his eyebrows and gave a deep sigh. That's just one. This is from another chapter called Seeing One. I'm going to read this also, and I want you to think back to that story that Lou tells about going to Brazil or going to Iraq and seeing the M1 Abrams tanks with holes in them. In he's so in this part of the book, Ingo is taken. He talks about this story that he's taken with an intelligence guy named who goes by the name Axelrod and two other agents, and they get into a jeep and they basically go to this very remote area where he is told they are going to see a UFO. They get to the location, they take cover, and at a particular time, they are waiting for this thing to appear. And this is what he says. I couldn't see anything at all save the narrowest dark blue-green glimmer of dawn in the east. I whispered back to Axelrod, what am I supposed to do? Just observe. We'll debrief later, he responded. But it's really important now to observe complete silence from this point on, and do not move unless I tell you to. They detect heat, noise, motion. So I was silent. There we were, four of us, sitting silently like rocks ourselves. But suddenly, the two twins gave some kind of hand signal. It's begun, Axel whispered. Please, please do not make any noise and do not move unless we tell you to. My eyeballs, now he's seeing this for real. This isn't an RV session. They're really there. They're watching this. My eyeballs rolled around trying to perceive what had begun. I couldn't see anything unusual at all, save for what appeared to be some gray fog coming up in the direction of the lake. I thought it was just morning fog coming up. This fog continued forming for about 5 minutes, and suddenly I saw what had begun. For in a moment's eye flicker, the gray fog changed, first into a luminous neon blue, and then an angry purple. At that point, Axel and one of the twins put a firm hand on each of my shoulders, and it was a good thing they did. A network of purple, red, and yellow lightning bolts shot in all crazy directions through the cloud, and I would have jumped up if not held down. And then there it was, something somewhat transparent at first, but in the next second, as if fading up, like the movie term, out of nowhere, there it was, solidly visible over the lake whose reflecting waters I could now clearly see, and it was getting bigger. I don't really know what I expected, but I had assumed that what I would see, if anything, would be something like a flying saucer. No chance of a saucer here because it was triangular and its top angle sort of inverted in pulses so that overall it appeared to be diamond shaped. At that moment, in my astonishment, we could hear a wind coming and it moved past us like a tangible magnetic field, rustling the pine trees around us so much that some cones and branches fell on us. At the same time, a ruby red laser like beams began shooting out from the thing, which incredibly was now growing even more in size while still stationary in its original position over the lake. One of the twins now talked softly, although the sound of his voice was like thunder to me. Shit, they're enveloping the area. They're going to spot us. I had no time to wonder about what he meant. Indeed, some of the laser red beams had begun blasting pine trees, of all things. At the same time, the thing had now increased its size to what may have been about 90 feet wide. This had so far had all been accomplished in complete silence. Even the electric bolts had not crackled. The blasting of the trees, though, was now audible, while at the same time I could begin to hear low frequency pulsations. They're blasting deer or porcupines or something in the forest, Axe explained softly in a calm but tense stage whisper. The beams sense biological body heat and they're sure to hone in on us. That's just a part of this crazy story. And it is basically the same story that the general in Imminent is telling Lou and his uh, companions at that dinner. So what's happening in this book, I think, is the same thing that Lou is talking about in Imminent, and I think it's the same thing that happened in Brazil. And I have nothing to base that on other than these accounts are very, very similar in very specific ways. So that's where I'm at. Um, Lake and Fog. The twins. Yeah. Space Cow, the twins. Form follows function. If they look like naked humans, then the environment allowed for naked humans, or else they was deliberate spoofing. It's my favorite chapter. Yes, the Craig William, Danny Sheehan has a story from the Carter administration about a remote viewer brought in to locate a person that succeeded in finding them. Yeah, that's real. That really happened. Carter made a statement on that. They said he kicked him. They kicked him out. Terrence Willis. Have you ever read? This is Shardul. Have you ever read or heard the Mars remote viewing session transcription? It is wild. If not, you will have to check it out. No, I have not. Can you please put that link, Shardul, in the chat? You should read us his library. There's always something blasting pine trees. That's true. I saw a 40-foot long cigar shaped UFO once. This is Mean Bean. One Mean Bean. I saw a 40-foot long cigar shaped UFO once in 1995 and a 100-foot tall upside down tear duct shaped UFO in 2014. Very cool. Is anyone scared though? Heather Willow. Um, yeah, guys, I don't know. McMonagle remote viewed Mars. Oh, only mods can link in the chat. Well, here you go. All right. Shardul, promotion, raise. You're now a moderator. Double your salary. The you should be able to put that in the chat now. What do you guys think? I'm only a little ways through this book. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm going to finish it hopefully by the end of the week. I'm going to put together a longer deep dive. Hopefully next week I should have something on that. We're we're a little slow around here. I know that whenever something happens, there are so many people on YouTube that immediately can get videos out, and I have to like wait until the next day when my kid goes to school, and then I have, I've got time and I have to sit down. Sometimes it takes me like 3-4 days to get to an individual story. So we'll probably all have finished the book by next week, but I'm going to put together a point by point sort of breakdown of I think the key stuff that at least jumps out to me, and I'll have that out next week. And in the meantime, what do you guys think? Oh, here's the link. All right, cool. No. Um, Let me know in the comments what you think of the book. If there's something, if you have any other book recommendations you want to send my way, please do. Um, Friday, I'm looking forward to this interview that Ross Coulthart's got. I'm going to try to maybe do a live stream to that interview. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you know in advance. And here's Brett, more than late to the party. Well, welcome, Brett. You made it. That's all that matters. I'm on LegalZoom establishing the Imminent Church Foundation. Oh, a lot of what we already knew, but it's super great for them. I think the biggest takeaway I have so far, and just to leave it at this, is that Imminent really frames the conversation in a way that it needed to be framed. It sets up the discussion in very clear terms about what it is we're dealing with, kind of where we're at today. It's a nice update. I think we've been in kind of this weird sort of between phase where it's been, every once in a while something will happen, and nothing really significant has happened until this in the last like year or so. I mean, just a few little things here and there, but this is a nice bookend to the Carl Nell Salt stuff, and what the Soul Foundation has been up to. This really kind of brings it home and buttons up the situation a little bit more nicely, so we have a clear picture of what the narrative actually looks like from at least Lou's perspective. I'm interested to hear what Stephen Greer thinks about it. I wonder if he'll talk about it. What do you think? Need to read the Penetration Special Edition. Out of Ward says. Reads like ChatGPT wrote it. There's a story in it which details which will give you the chills. Ooh, okay. Look, if you want me to just cut right to the quick on the Lou thing, I think Lou's trying to tell us that we should be concerned. I think Lou's trying to tell us we should be concerned. That's what I get. And until he comes out otherwise and says, like, that's not what I'm saying. But it's kind of like with a wink and a nod, he's like, you guys should like it's not all like rainbows and unicorns. Like you should definitely keep your head on a swivel. That's what I'm getting. But I could be wrong, and I'm ready to be to kiss the earth goodbye. What's that book? Greer's probably going to come out with his own book now. Yeah, probably. They live Veiled by Esteban. Okay, gang. I've got to bail. That's my time for today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for hanging out. Um, let me know what you think about the live streams. Thistle's Last Stand. Oh my gosh. You didn't have to do that. Round of applause. Huge thank you. Thistle's Last Stand. You were incredible. I'm honored. Thank you. Um, we should be concerned. Just the dirty cover up is bad enough. Greer said he briefed the aliens. Yeah, Stephen Greer briefed 6 people on his way to the bathroom, and 2 of them were former directors of the Central Intelligence Agency. I don't know. I have questions about Greer. What was I going to say? Where am I going to leave that? The Nephilim Stargate. Oh my God, Kiss the Earth Goodbye is an unusual book. All right, so I got to wrap it there. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. Please go to Vetted and subscribe there and support the community. Get involved in any way that you can. Best way to do it here is just be involved in the conversation. Get into the chat. Get into the comments. Let us know what you think. Ask questions. Get involved. Have conversations. Engage with the community. A lot of the guests who wind up coming on the channel come here because of you guys. So it's the quality of the community that we've built that is really important to me, and I want to make sure that we protect that and encourage it as much as we can. So thank you to everyone. Yeah, and feel free to reach out. You can hit me up through the make contact field or make contact link on the website, and check out our merch while you're there. All right, gang, I'm gonna bail. I'll see you guys on Friday. All right. Sayonara. Let's hear that theme song one more time.